Histamine intolerance. I remember this came on like a wave, and it was mast cell activation syndrome and histamine intolerance were together into one. I think there is no real separation, and I think in a way, uh, the labels don't really matter. I think it was just the easier way to understand is that you're a state of fight or flight and you have sensitivities come up. The brain's like, we're not letting anything in and we're letting everything out. And I mean out, that means, you know what I mean? Party on the toilet. So, before, I was just, after my surgery, I took probiotics, and these probiotics were like a bomb that went off in my gut. I was thinking, I should take probiotics because I just had surgery. I was on antibiotics. My biome's out of balance, so I should probably take some probiotics. And I got this special I forget what it's called. I got shipped from the States. I think it had 50 billion bacteria units or whatever it was. Or 500. I don't know. It was like a crazy amount. Like I would go to the grocery store and find an amount. And I'd be like, okay, they were in the fridge. And then I saw one online that was like 10 times more. And I'm like, well, that's the one I need because, more is obviously better, right? In the world of the biome and probiotics, we assume that more is better. And for me, I think probiotics, ingesting probiotics doesn't really make sense because I don't think we will ever understand, right, how our gut works, the bacteria. I think I think it would take another 1,000 years till we fully understand what's going on down there, right? And then you got these companies that are selling these supplements, and you're trusting these companies to know what they're doing, and you're ingesting these little bombs that are, for me, in my case, were literally bombing my gut. And this is aside from all the naturopath supplements that I used to take that was, the Candida protocol, the SIBO, the leaky gut protocols with all these crazy supplements that were bombing my gut over and over again. No, this was, I just got over taking a month worth of antibiotics because of my surgery. And then I go in and I take this supplement with all this bacteria in it and I bomb it again. So when I did that, that was the drop. That was the last drop in my full bucket, right? My bucket was full. I was starting to get symptoms slowly. And then this was the last drop that made it overflow. And then all of a sudden, my baseline's at 1,000. When before it might have been at, 500. And when it should be at 0. All of a sudden, it's hitting 1,000. My bucket's overflowing. And my alarms are all turned on. They're freaking out. We got spotlights. We got alarms ringing. Mayday, mayday, right? Everything's a war zone. And it was all, from the surgery, and it was all from things in the past that just all of a sudden they came together to one, right? All these drops from all the stresses that I had in my life came together into this one load that I was carrying loads from the past in my life. All these drops together added up to a 747, right? And plus my baseline was at 1,000, and it was sending alarms because I was in an alarm state and my body couldn't regulate. It wasn't working properly. It was overwhelmed. It couldn't detox. It couldn't digest. It couldn't do anything. But it was still keeping me alive. It was still doing everything, but not efficiently. So, I'm taking the probiotics, and it was like, it tasted really good. Probiotics tasted really good. And then, I was farting all the time. I was like, what's going on here? Oh, man. And I felt like I was pregnant all the time. I'd eat something small. Boom, I'm pregnant. I eat like a sandwich with onions in it or, eggs. And all of a sudden I was farting like crazy for like a week. And then the histamine intolerance came in. And yeah, I didn't just have histamine intolerance. I was having sensitivities to all food. And I could only eat rice and beef. Those became my safe foods. So you can imagine, I'm reactive. When I have other videos that talk about this the details of the story, how it happened. And I didn't understand. Like, I feel like I'm one of those freaks that I used to not believe online, right? And people, like I see stories where people say, "Oh my God, I'm allergic to everything. I can't eat anything, and I'm allergic." I'm like, you can't be allergic to everything. How does that even make any sense? Right? This is where, I didn't know anything. And then I'm the one going through this shit. I'm reacting to everything. Soups, broths. So I tried my carnivore diet. I'm like, yeah, I'll get back online with my carnivore diet, my trusty old, fasting. I'll reset everything. This will be fine. And it made things worse, right? The carnivore diet was meh, didn't do anything. But fasting made things worse. And now I understand why. Because fasting, it puts stress on your body, and when you're already in a sensitive state of fight or flight, forget it. And then within a week, I couldn't eat any foods. I figured out, okay, rice and beef I can do. And, and then I'm not even talking about the mental breakdown that I was having during this whole thing, because it was scary, and all of a sudden I started having 70 symptoms. But I'm going to put that aside and just talk about the histamine intolerance and the food, the mast cell activation, all that was going on at the same time. So, yeah, there was a shit show, a wall of other symptoms, but I'm going to try to, just put the spotlight and kind of focus it on this section. So I went down rabbit holes, Facebook groups, tried all the protocols, did all the, tried killing the candida, took quercetin. It's a supplement that you can take so that you're able to eat the quercetin, right? Or the DAO. Or DOA, one of the two. I always get them confused because it reminds me of a band. So it's DOA supplement, and it's an enzyme because supposedly that we're not producing the certain type of enzyme to break down certain foods. So then your body reacts to it. That's what I was told in these groups. So you can get the DAO supplement and the quercetin supplement. You eat these before you have a meal. So if you want to eat normal, you pop them up and you eat them, and then you can have a meal, and then you won't react as bad, but you'll still have symptoms. You still, but it's a managing tool. And they also said, you can buy kidneys from a special wild animal in Alberta. If you eat raw kidney, you can use other kidneys, but they're not grass fed. You might still react. So it was a crazy rabbit hole. So I was okay. I'm like, fuck it. Okay, I'll try to find a kidney and the supplement that came from Alberta. And they were sold out. I'm like, holy shit, what am I going to do, right? I couldn't eat anything that was a leftover from the night before. Anything that was in the fridge, I couldn't eat. It had to be frozen. So not only I don't have an appetite to begin with because I'm in a state of fight or flight. So I'm cooking meat that's from frozen to in my mouth. So this is how I took it out of the freezer. It'd be hard as rock. Ding, ding, ding. And I put it in a pan in the oven, right? And I have no appetite. I don't want to eat. And the food was depressing because I'm like, I got to ingest this. I was losing weight like crazy, right? I went from like 220 pounds to 170 within a couple of months. And my mom was getting scared. People were like, man. And the thing is, when I came back from surgery, like, aside from all the other symptoms, my face was green and then gray. I had no color in my face. Like, some people thought I was dying, but they weren't telling me. They were like, okay, I think he's done. Like, this is it. I don't know what the hell he's going to do, right? And so anyway, I was dealing with all these sensitivities, mast cell activation, right? So I was constantly in an alarm state. And my body felt like it was being attacked. My brain was looping symptoms like crazy. It made exorcisms jealous. That's what I felt like I was going through. I was shaking. Everything was a threat. But I didn't think of it that way. Right? I didn't know that that's what was going on. I didn't think that my brain was perceiving danger. No. I just thought that I was having this crazy disease all of a sudden. I thought I was breaking down, that I was dying, and that I have this crazy fucking disease. And why am I feeling like this, right? I felt like my body was feeling like it's gonna give out and die, and it was going hell. I felt like right. If I could describe what I felt, it felt like this, constantly, right, times 10. That's what I felt like. And then so pretend you're in that state and you got to make something to eat and you're shaking, right? And you're rushing everything, right? Because when you're in a state of fight or flight, you're rushing, right? Because you want to get back to looping and figuring out what's going on in your bedroom, in your safe zone. So I'm rushing. I'm like, when is this going to be done? I don't even want to eat. I don't want to fucking, everything was survival second by second. So finally, the food is ready. Then I got to wait for it to cool down. I made some rice. Rice is like, you got to have some love when you make rice, and everything became a science and a survival feeling, right? I'm like, okay, so if I just quickly put the rice in the thing, I can just, okay, I got to put some salt in. Fuck the salt. That means if I have to put salt in, that means I have to go there, get the salt, put it in there, then put the water in. Oh, this is too much. I can't handle. Everything was like going up a mountain. So I started, just taking shortcuts with everything I did. Just because I couldn't handle doing anything. Because everything that I was doing, the more I had to do, the more it was a survival feeling. Like, oh, I'm running out of toilet paper. Oh, does that mean I have to go get toilet paper? No. Like, it felt like the end of the world. Anything that you did felt like the end of the world. If every second felt like there was a lion or a bear standing on your shoulder, about to eat your head, right? And you got, and you're hanging off kind of like half of your body is hanging off a cliff. And then you have this thing going, okay, Mao, you have to answer this question. What's 2 times 5 divided by 3? And after that, times that by 50, and what's your answer? And it's like, I can't do math right now. Can't you see? I got this fucking bear. It's like, okay, can you make a cake right now? Can you make a souffle? You got to get the ingredients, and then you got to mix it really good. You're not mixing it good enough. No, keep going with that. Look at all the chunks you got there. Make sure you get all the chunks, but you can't focus on getting the fucking stupid chunks out of there when you got this big bear that's starting to drool on your head and it's about to take bites out of your head, and you're hanging off a cliff. You're holding on by the tip of your finger, right? And then life is asking you to make a souffle and to bake a cake, right? And to cook the steak in the oven. Like, how are you supposed to be able to do that when at any second you're going to be free falling 1,000 meters and you're going to land on rocks? That's the feeling I had. Or the bear is going to start eating your head off, or you have the deep sensation feeling that you got to solve something, in that you have to, something urgently has to happen. Urgently. But then you get sidetracked with trying to cook, right? If you're hanging off a cliff, the last thing on your mind is to make sure you're cooking that steak properly and to make sure to salt that rice. That's not going to happen. But that's what I had to deal with. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm not putting salt in there. I'm just going to cook that. I'm just going to pace back and forth. Okay, the rice is done. You know what? I'll just rather eat the rice and fuck the steak. Turn off the oven. Fuck the steak. Leave the steak. And I did that a couple times. I would just eat rice. Then I thought, no, I got to eat protein. I can't just live off of rice. And I remember I was able to handle gluten-free crackers. So I would eat, 2 sleeves of gluten-free crackers, have a couple bites of rice, and a couple bites of my steak. And I was like, okay, that's good enough. Leave it there. And so I'd have like a half-eaten steak sitting there, a bunch of rice, and gluten-free crackers crumbled up everywhere, right? And I'm like, no, I got to force myself. My mom was like, you need to eat. Come on. I gave you gluten-free crackers. Fucking eat your black crackers. What are you doing? Elmut, you need to eat. I got you gluten-free crackers. The way my mom made it sound like is that she went for like an 8-hour drive and had to, climb a mountain to find these special gluten-free crackers, and I'm not eating them, and I need to gain some weight. And no, you need to eat something. You know what you eat yesterday? What did you eat today? You have to eat the food. Eat the steak. Eat your gluten-free cracker. Did you eat the cracker? And then she bought me a bunch of like, apple sauces, right? And I couldn't eat them because I was reacting to everything. And then, of course, she doesn't believe me. No, just eat it. You're not reacting. It's all in your head. You have anxiety. What's wrong with you? Eat the food. What is wrong with you? And then eventually, you know, I was having that bloody diarrhea and reacting to food. And then she's like, you still have diarrhea? What is going on? That is not normal. That is weird. She always, and it would trigger me more when my mom go like this. And she'd go, that is weird. I'm like, fuck, don't say that. I'm like, yeah, I know. Try me. I'm the one going through it. 3 weeks of fucking bloody diarrhea. Fuck. Why? Because I ate a piece of banana, or I ate a piece of fucking avocado, or I had a piece of fish, or I had a little fucking tomato sleeve. A little tomato sleeve. Like, I've been through this many times over and over, right? And then my mom was like, how are you feeling? I'm like, do you still have diarrhea? Yes. That is not normal. That is weird. And then I could tell that she's going, that is weird. I'm like, fuck. Right? And of course I'm looping, and then my mom's not, you know, she's telling me that's weird, and I got a headache because of course I'm reacting, histamine intolerance. It's like, we don't normally get headaches in the family. That is not normal anymore. That is weird. Right? Fuck. So that doesn't help. You know, when I go down the rabbit holes of the internet, all the Facebook groups keep me stuck. I'm losing hope. I think I have to go on disability. I'm like, you know, and I surrendered to the idea that I might die. I got over it. At first it was, you know, I might die. Oh my God, I got to say bye to everybody right now. So I made peace with it. I'm like, okay, if I die, it's over. But my worst fear was the idea that I was going to keep living life like this and suffer. That was my nightmare, right? And I was like, I have to get disability then. But how am I going to get disability? I have to see I have to go to a doctor. Then I got to tell him my bullshit. They're going to ask me all these questions. And I can't even move. I can't even go from here to here. I can't go anywhere. Like, I can't even lift up the phone to talk to anybody. What am I going to talk about? Like, how am I going to I can barely have a voice for 5 minutes without me losing my voice. Like, I'm already looping on nothing, plus all my symptoms, plus the 70 symptoms, plus the histamine intolerance, right? How can I, put myself through talking to a doctor? And sometimes I had to talk to a doctor because I had to do, my yearly appointment, and it fell on that day, and I had to be like, when I talked to my specialist, I'm like, can we talk? Can you check in on me in a year? Because I'm having a lot of health issues. They're like, did you have COVID? This sounds like COVID. I'm like, no, I had surgery and I need to heal a little bit longer. I'm not taking my medications because I'm reacting to everything. He's like, okay, well, he didn't believe me. He thought, I was, so, because I had to put the doctor appointments on the shelf because they were too triggering and they weren't really helping me because they didn't really know what the hell was going on with me, right? They're like, yeah, this sounds like another COVID guy. Because apparently they were seeing a lot of this, but they didn't know what to fucking do, right? But no, I didn't have COVID, right? But I was showing a lot of the same symptoms of a lot of people that are dealing with mold, Lyme, COVID. Because at the end of the day, it's not the COVID, it's not the Lyme, it's not the mold, right? It's your limbic system is in a state of fight or flight, and anything can trigger that, especially when your baseline is up at 1,000, especially when your bucket's full and your alarms are turned on. Right? It doesn't matter what it is. It's irrelevant. You get the same type of symptoms, right? It was that last drop. So you could say, yeah, COVID put that last drop in there, that last big load that you had to go through, that cracked the camel's toe. Is that even a word? Broke the camel's toe, right? We're breaking its toe. I think it's breaking its back. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So I'm going down all these rabbit holes, and I see some people saying, yeah, I had histamine intolerance, and then, I took peppermint, but I took like a whole bottle of peppermint, and I just bombed my gut because it has to clear everything out, because you have certain bacteria in there, and it just needs to clear it out. I went down the SIBO rabbit holes, and then, I tried the peppermint thing, and it made things worse. And then I came across this Frank guy. He's a carnivore guy, right? What he does, he has this whiteboard and he wears this tie, right? And he wears these glasses, And, he looks believable. He's like, see, what's going on? I had the histamine. Well, I still have the histamine. I'm like, you still have it? Why are you giving people advice? And he's like, you have to take copper because you don't have enough copper, so you're having sensitivity. So take some copper. So I went and, of course, I'm already spending $500 in supplements, and I'm trying everything and reacting everything. Everything's 10 times worse. So I tried this copper, and I swear I tried some of it, and I thought I was dying. Well, I already thought I was dying, but this was like another form of dying. And I'm sure, and I have tried iron, I tried all kinds of things I ingested in my body that probably could have killed me. Plus, you're in a state of fight or flight, so the brain is seeing this shit and it's going, get that shit out of here. Right? My alarm system's just freaking out. And I tried some crazy things, right? And I was desperate. And then eventually, I went on the histamine intolerance thing. I had a histamine intolerance app. So I knew, don't eat a banana. Oh, don't eat an avocado. Oh, don't eat tomatoes. Oh, celery. Oh, right? And of course, I would try some things and I would react, right? Have skin issues, crazy and intense anxiety. My blood pressure and heart rate would just go all over the place, right? You couldn't tell, like, you barely feel dun, 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 dun. You feel lightheaded, you feel like you're gonna puke, nausea, and then all kinds of weird symptoms, right? So, and it was all mast cell activation and histamine intolerance, but actually it's, if you think about it, it's not that. You're just in a state of fight or flight, right? You're in a survival state, and it brings on weird fucking symptoms, scary symptoms, things that you don't even understand. So there'd be days I wake up, I felt like I was floating and vibrating. I felt like my whole body was, right? And then all of a sudden everything looked cloudy. I felt like I just woke up from a deep state of anesthesia. Like they were working on you, and then you wake up, you go, oh, he's up. Get him under. Doctor, he's awake. Get him down. Right? I felt like I just woke up from an operation every time I went to sleep, and plus I was having crazy nightmares, and not like dreams with sequences and there's a bad guy, there's a villain. No, just things that didn't make sense, where all of a sudden just fucking with me. There's and I'd wake up, and you're not out of a dream yet. You're into another fucking horror story. So you move from one horror story to another horror story. So this is what I was going through, and then I was screaming like thank God during the day nobody was home. I was running down the hallways asking for help. I'm like, please God help me, my higher self, anybody on the other side, my guides, anybody can help me, because I was somewhat spiritual, but I wasn't really, because I didn't really understand it, I didn't really feel it. I was projecting spirituality, and at that point, when you're on your face, when you're at your worst, you have to tap in to your spiritual side, and this is where you start to see. This is where you wake up from a deep sleep, and you start to see. You get the gift of being able to see things, and you need that spirituality, that faith to move forward, because you have nothing under you. You don't have a bridge, you have nothing under you, and you gotta still move forward, right? You're stuck between these two cliffs, and faith gets you over to the other side. You're either floating by or you're walking by. Everything in your mind saying you will fall and die, but faith gets you to the other side, right? And you're walking, and you're like, how am I walking in thin air to this other mountain without crashing and fall? I just gotta keep looking straight. Don't look down. Keep looking straight, right? And I was on this Facebook group. Of course, they were all toxic. I was on the histamine Facebook group, and which I've been blocked on, of course, because they don't want anybody talking about healing. No, they want you to believe that the brainwashing that they put you on. They want everybody to stay sick, and they want you to buy their supplements. So I got blocked from the histamine intolerance group, the big one. I think it has like over 45,000 people on it. And one girl, she put up a post saying, I'm able to eat 50% of all my foods again. And to me, that was insane. She's like, I took a program, and it was a brain retraining program, right? And I was like, oh my God. And her message got taken down. Of course, the moderators didn't like that. They didn't want to hear any word about recovery or feeling better with using such and such, because they felt it gave people false hope. And a lot of these Karens, Facebook Karens, were stuck for many years because they were doing the wrong things. And it was not their fault. They just didn't know. But they assumed just because they didn't know that the whole world isn't supposed to heal either. So they take it on themselves to make sure that other people are going to stay sick. They decide to take that in their own hands, which I think is evil and horrible. Anyway, this girl, she made the post. I messaged her. I'm like, yeah, I saw you made a post. It got taken down. Can you tell me more about this? I'm like, did you feel this? She's like, yeah, I felt that. I'm like, oh my God. So I made a friend. I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm going to take that program. So I took DNRS. That was the program. And I started working through it. And I started slowly regulating my nervous system and feeling better, right? I probably a quarter of the way through, and then eventually it wasn't working for me anymore. It was a great stepping stone. It got me into the mind-body space. It got me to understand the gist of it, right? And then eventually I tried a bunch of other things, and then I made my own version by trial and error and figuring shit out, right? And this is where I come with the alarm system reset, because I treat the limbic system like it's an alarm security system that's just trying to keep you alive, and it's sending alarms in the form of symptoms because your bucket's full and it's overflowing, manifesting symptoms. You got alarms blaring at you, and your baseline's at 1,000. So your body's not regulating properly, right? It's overwhelmed, and you're piling on more bullshit for it to do it. So it's not working properly. It's just totally up to here, right? It's up to here, and something's got to give, and it's still keeping you alive. It's like, here, buddy, you okay? Yeah, just keep walking. You're alive. Yeah, I'm doing everything I can. Fuck, my body was doing everything. My brain was keeping me alive, and it was like, here you go. Okay, here, fucking another day. We did another day. Okay, like everything was survival. And that's why I have full gratitude, and I thank my body for keeping me alive and doing everything that it could, even though it was pulling 747s, right? And finally, we cut all the dead weight. We released the loads, right? We released the 747, and I was able to regulate and bring down my baseline and empty my bucket. And there was a while for I would say a year and like 10 months where I had to wait to eat foods again. I still had to stay on my safe foods. I couldn't just, even though I knew what was going on, I couldn't rush to get all the foods back. I had to wait. I had to be patient. Which is another video. I had to be patient. So yeah, I had to eat my safe foods for that long. And sure, like within a year and a half, I would have 5 foods instead of 2. Right? I had like rice and beef and a couple of vegetables. Carrot, yam, and beets. Right? But I stopped eating beets because they looked red. And it made my toilet bowl look red, I would loop. So I didn't eat beets anymore. See, some of the things that and then I had to stop looking in the toilet because it would trigger me all the time. So I stopped doing that. Then eventually I had 10 foods, right? I was reintroducing gluten, and gluten was up and down, right? Sometimes it made my teeth hurt. Sometimes I had symptoms. I had diarrhea. I had the bloody diarrhea. I had flares. Sometimes not. And sometimes, So when it was in, I used it. When it was out, I used something else. So I kind of adapted with it. And eventually, this is when I started to train. When I figured that my baseline came down enough, then I started training on the foods. And what I would do is, if I had a flare, I would drag out a flare as long as I could. I'd be like, I know you're getting better. No. We're going to drag out this flare. Because I wanted to train myself to be indifferent to the symptoms of reacting to food. Because when you react to food, you get scared of the symptoms, right? You get scared of the consequences that happen every time you eat food, and you have avoidance behaviors. And avoidance behaviors keeps that alarm and that cycle going, and keeps you stuck and keeps it chronic. It keeps the sensitivity going strong. Right? With all bowel issues, if you avoid shit, you're guaranteeing that it's going to stay there. So first, bring down your baseline, give it time, be patient, and then eventually you have your flares, you drag them out, right? You go on your safe foods a bit, and then you eat the foods that trigger, and you drag out the flare to the point where you don't care if you're in a flare, right? And then you keep going with life. You keep following the routine and the schedule. That's why routine is important. Routine. Stick to your busy schedule, because we don't want to sit there and analyze all our symptoms, all our histamine intolerance. We don't want to sit there and analyze everything and sit in that fear, because if you are, it brings your baseline up again, right? We don't want to be ruminating all day and investigating, right? We don't want to turn this to a project. We want to live life. Put that on the shelf. We allow it to be there when it comes, but we engage in life. So that's why routine is important, with a schedule, right? And then eventually you train on the foods. You get a flare. You do, this is called exposure to your foods. You'll get a flare, and you sit in the flare, you ask for more, and you actually drag out the flare. You do that until you are totally indifferent, until you didn't give a shit if you have a flare or not, until you're at a point where you can say to yourself, this histamine intolerance, this mast cell activation, this gut issues that I have, if they last for another 2 years, I'm okay with that, because I'm living life either way. I don't give a shit. And mast activation syndrome started to settle, right? My histamine intolerance was getting smaller and smaller, and would get bigger and bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller. Bang, 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 bang. Sometimes bang, 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 and then eventually bang, bang. So it was moving up and down, down, up, down, and eventually boom, 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 and then gone. So this takes time. This takes, patience, because you're building leverage with exposure, having the symptoms, having the flares, exposing yourself to them, asking for more, sitting in the symptoms, right? And eventually you improve a bit. You get the leverage, and you keep going, and you take 10 steps back, and you go back again. But then you go forward again, and you take 10 steps back, and then so this is all a process of going up and down, right? And then you go, well, really? And you really move up. And then you're like, oh, fuck, and all the way down again. What the fuck? And then you go all the way. And then you're on the top of the mountain. You're like, yeah. And then you go down the other side. You're like, yeah. Right? You're the eye of the tiger. You conquered all the symptoms and the sensitivities, and you're recovered, right? And then you think to yourself, wow, I did this. Supposedly, if you take all these symptoms separately, you've been told that you'll never recover from anxiety. You'll never recover from histamine intolerance, mast cell activation syndrome. If you go on YouTube, you shouldn't. Only after you recover you can do this. If you were to go on YouTube and check out mast cell activation syndrome, watch all these doctors. Yeah, but if you go to T cell, if you mix it, you take the main mitochondria, and you take the gene, and you change it around, and if you take, and you could probably blah, 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 blah. They're really able to convince you that you will always have this. You have some sort of defect, you're special, and you're going to have to wait for this special crazy drug to get on the market, and that will help you cope with 1,000 side effects, right? And they're able to make, with all the science bullshit mumble jumble that they talk about, they can convince you and create a belief in your head, and your brain will have that rolling in the brain will make that as a belief, and it'll perceive danger, and it'll keep you chronically sick. It creates your reality, right? So do me a favor, get out of the Facebook groups. Don't listen to anybody that says you can't recover from this. You can. You just got to regulate your alarm system. Once you do that, you'll be able to do everything normal again. Trust me. Yes, it takes time, it takes patience, and you have to go towards the alarms. And you're going to feel like shit when you're doing it. That's just a process.